If you're a disabled veteran and are trying to figure out how you can qualify for 100% benefits from the federal government, then this is the video for you. Today I'm going to walk you through certain tips on how to get your claims approved, how to make sure that you can qualify for educational benefits for your dependents, and how you can make sure that you are getting the maximum amount of benefits you received as a disabled veteran for service to your country. Stay tuned. Okay, before I get into what you came here for today, I just want to remind you that although I'm an attorney, I'm not your attorney, so that if you actually need any help with questions in regards to filing a claim, I cannot represent you. I'm offering this advice to disabled veterans as a part of the channel, and this advice does not constitute attorney-client relationship. So keep that in mind. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so that you can see future content from us. Okay, so I've been working with veterans and the veteran benefits law for the last 8 years almost. And I've run across certain things that I feel like if I would have told these people when they were in active duty or they were just out of the military, this would have helped get their claim approved and I wouldn't be trying to help them at the back end of it. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips about what to do. And the first tip is if you're currently on active duty and you've been injured, make sure you document everything. On your separation exam, don't try to get out of the exam just because you want to hurry and get discharged. You want to document every ailment you have. What happens is when you don't document all your ailments on your separation examination and then you go to apply for benefits later, the government is actually going to look at that separation examination and say, hey, you didn't mention any of these problems that you're now claiming. Why didn't you do it? And it's kind of an uphill battle to explain, oh, I just wanted to hurry get out the military. I didn't want to say that I had these problems. I would say, tell them everything you have. You got an earache, you got an eye ache, you got a leg, everything at your separation examination so that it's thoroughly documented and you won't have that problem and you have more likely to be approved for your claim later down the line. The second tip I would say is when you're applying for benefits and let's say you've already been denied by the regional office, the RO, and you have a private provider, a private doctor that has given a statement that says, yes, this person's disability is related to active service. I would say to make sure that you get the doctor to review your claims folder. So do a request for your actual claims folder and have the doctor say that he or she has reviewed your claims folder. And based on the review of the folder and based on the examination of you, it is at least as likely as not that the disability is related to service. Those are kind of the buzzwords that you want the doctor to use. You want to say that the doctor has reviewed the claims folder so he or she knows what happened in the military. They reviewed you now, so they say that you have a current disability, and they're making the connection between your current disability and service. And make sure that they give a current actual rationale for their explanation, for their opinion. Not just say, John's disability is related to service because I said so. That's not going to be sufficient. You need to have it based on certain medical principles and have them do a pretty decent explanation of why they believe the disability is related to service. And make sure they also put in there that they reviewed your electronic claim folder, because what happens is that usually these veterans get someone to say that's related to service, but they don't get a doctor to actually look over the medical records from service to say that it has some kind of relationship. And so what happens is the regional office dings it and says, well, how would the doctor think it's related to service without actually looking at the service medical records? So I would say keep those things in mind when you're applying so that you don't get denied at the front end. If you're already in a position where you've gotten denied, that's probably the reason. If you had a doctor's opinion just saying it's related to service and has no explanation about why, then you want to go double back and have them give a pretty thorough rationale for their opinion. Okay, so the third tip about veterans benefits. I get all the time people want to say that they want to get 100% benefits, which is called a TDIU, total disability based on unemployability. To be honest, everybody is not going to qualify for 100% benefits. And it's a pretty high standard to say that based on my disability, what it's saying is based on my disability, I can't work any job. So I think a lot of veterans get confused when they say, oh, I injured my leg, so I can't work the job that requires me to run. TDIU is not based on the job that required you to run. It's saying, I can't work any particular job. And so you want to basically find a way to say that this injury precludes me from any kind of employment. And so what I usually see is with, let's say if you have a mental disorder, PTSD, for example, is a popular mental disorder. And you're saying like, I can't work in any environment because I don't get along with people. I start spazzing out and get people to write statements in your favor. Say, I witnessed veteran do this in a certain environment so that he or she is not able to work in a certain environment. And you have to also say that I can't work let's say you have a PTSD and a leg problem. So you can't do physically laborious work and you can't do anything that requires you to work with people. And most jobs require you to work with people. And so you have to basically flesh out that theory. You can't just be like, I don't want to work with people. I mean, let's be honest, sometimes none of us want to work with people. It's I can't work with people. And if you have private providers that can provide a statement to attest to that says, oh, basically they would need breaks all the time because they get overwhelmed, they get anxious, they can't interact with people, they'll get physical with them. That will help your case to say that this person can't work in any employment. I know the number one reason why people say, oh, I work at a particular job and I can't do that job anymore. Usually the RO is going to deny it because they're going to say, well, you can't do that particular job, but you can do a different job. Let's say you can do a job that requires sedentary work. You can sit down and do some administrative work. But what happens is the veterans think that it's just that one job and then they're wondering why they're getting denied. So I would say to make sure that you understand, usually what the government looks at is what is your disability, what's the limitations from your disability, what kind of educational background you have or any kind of work background. Let's say you worked in the same field for the last 30 years. Your ability to do other things is very limited because you've done the same thing for the last 30 years and you have very limited education. It's going to be very hard to find a job that is going to be able to pay you more than the minimum wage, that's going to basically the living wage that's going to help you sustain yourself. And so that's the standard. So I know everybody wants 100% because I believe 100% without any dependents gives you about over $3,000 a month in tax-free benefits. Everybody is not going to qualify for it. And I would say there are other ways to try to get those benefits without asking for a TDIU. And I'm going to talk about that tip next. Okay, tip number 4 is when you're applying for benefits. Let's say you get granted benefits and they assign you a rating. The rating code, I'll give you a clue. This is the newest edition of the rating code. The federal law, rules and regulation. The rating code is actually in here. And so every disability is rated with certain criteria to say, like, if you have this limitation, then you're assigned this particular rating. And so I think a lot of people think that, oh, they just feel they should get a 50% rating. And every disability has a certain rating criteria. And some of them don't even have 50% ratings. Like it's not that you pull it out your head. Some of them go from 20, 40 to 100% ratings, right? So in that instance, there's no 50% rating. And I often see when veterans are requesting a rating that they just pull out their head, it is not equated to any of the rating criteria in the federal regulation and rules. So I would say, I believe the rules are available online. I would say, look up your disability and see what the criteria is for your disability before you request anything, because you may not meet the criteria for a higher rating. A common rating is for the back disability, and you have to show that you can't move a certain way, you can't flex a certain way, and there's pain, right? So I would behoove you to see what the criteria is for back ratings before you request anything to see if, oh, can I lean forward? Okay, what's the rating to say that I can't lean forward before requesting a higher rating? And what happens is, let's say you can't move at all, then you can get up to 100% rating. And 100% rating has certain monetary benefits along with it. As I mentioned before, that a TDIU gets you certain benefits, but you can also receive benefits at 100% without being totally disabled, and you can still receive monetary benefits. So let's say you have several benefits, then those actually can combine, not add, we'll talk about that later, combine, and you can still get a total combined rating of 100% without qualifying for the TDIU. Okay, tip number, I think go to 5. So tip number 5 is In the disability benefits world, ratings are assigned based on percentages, and those ratings are not added together, they're combined under a combined ratings table. So remember I was telling you about this book, the Federal Veterans Laws, Rules, and Regulations. Under 38 CFR section 4.25 is the combined ratings table. And what it does is says, okay, if a veteran has several disabilities that are rated at certain amounts, you use this table to figure out what their combined rating would be. So let's say you have three disabilities, they all rated 20%. The average person would think that is equated to a 60% combined rating. However, it's not if you look at the combined ratings table. What you would do is start with 20%, the first rating, they're all rated the same. Sometimes they're rated differently. The example I just gave, they're all rated at 20, and you would actually combine it. So let me do a quick calculation. A 20% rating combined with another 20% will give you 36, and then you round up to 40, and then you go to 40 on the table, and then you add another 20, and that gives you 52, and you round down to 50. So a combined rating for three disabilities that are rated at 20% is actually a 50% combined rating. Like I said, it's not adding the disabilities together, it's using the combined ratings table to actually do the calculation to see what the combined rating would be. So keep that in mind when you're saying, oh, I don't understand why it's not 60%. I just explained it to you, but you can also go to the table and do the actual calculations yourself. Okay, so tip number 6 is a lot of people want to get that TDIU I mentioned because it comes with additional benefits. Those benefits would be educational benefits for their dependents. And so if you have children and you get rated at TDIU, then your children's education would be covered to a certain degree based on the fact that you're a totally disabled veteran. And so if you understand the gravity of this, basically you wouldn't have to worry about your children's education if you're a disabled veteran. A lot of people want to try to get their TDIU. Also, the dependence is making sure that their person is either biologically related to you as a child, like you take care of them, you provide support for them. You want to make sure you have proof of that, because sometimes we say, oh, my cousin lives with me, my niece lives with me. You have to have proof that you provide a certain amount of support for them them to qualify for dependent. And dependent is very specific and defined in the regulations. So make sure that you actually qualify as a dependent. But that's basically an ancillary benefit of having qualified for TDIU. Another tip is when you get denied, let's say you get denied at the regional office, and up until that point, you can't be represented by a lawyer. But as soon as you get denied, it triggers the idea that a lawyer can assist you. What happens is there's basically defined in the regulations that any lawyer that represents you gets paid no more than 20%. And that's because it's designed to not have any lawyers take advantage of you by taking your benefits away from you that you are entitled to. So let's say they get you the benefits that you had, and usually it's going to probably be a while. You'll have some back pay owed to you. The lawyer would get 20% of those back pay benefits, and it would be paid directly to the lawyer. Keep in mind that the process starts at the time that you're denied and you file a notice of disagreement with the denial, the rating decision that was issued. And so that's when the lawyer can step in and say, okay, what has happened here? What did you not give information about to try to qualify you for those benefits? They file once you file a notice of disagreement, the regional office issues a statement of the case. And then you have a certain amount of time to file a formal appeal to that, a VA-9, to that statement of the case. So when you file that appeal, a lot of people want to say they want to request a hearing with the judge, and they want to have their time to explain why they should not have been denied. I'm going to say this kind of can benefit from you, and it can kind of work against you for two reasons. Sometimes it's not enough information in an electronic file for it to explain the case. And so this would be the opportunity for you to kind of flesh out what's going on so that the judge can say, okay, yes, this shouldn't got denied because there is evidence of this. The flip side is when you request a hearing, you're basically put in a line to wait for a hearing before a judge. And so you don't know how long you'll be waiting for the hearing. And if you're waiting for your benefits, that kind of delays the process. So if you can actually submit a written statement instead of actually waiting for a hearing, that probably will move the process on faster than saying request a hearing before a judge. So keep that in mind when you're trying to navigate the channels of whether you want a hearing when you file your substantive appeal. Sometimes it's unfortunate that veterans law is so muddled. There's a lot of intricacies, but it's designed to make sure that everybody that's entitled to benefits gets benefits, and those who are not entitled to it don't take from the pot from those that should be getting the benefits. So if you've been denied, I would say seek a veteran service officer, a VSO, or a veterans lawyer to help you represent you so that you can make sure you're checking off all those boxes. And if you're entitled to benefits, you're more than likely to get them.